Okay, welcome back. Well done for being so prompt. Now, is there anybody here who wasn't in the first half? Because you haven't missed anything, really. Okay, right. Okay, we're going to try and race through this. Just to remind you, I am an author. I write books. I've written 12 books in the last 8 years. I used to just be a project manager. I just couldn't stop writing recently. So I brought my books with me. They've all got pictures in. So, I know you like pictures. You can take a leaflet from the end. If you'd like to know more about me and my company, then I've got a brochure you can take away. And I've got an experiment, okay? I've got an experiment. This is either a very large business card or a very small brochure. And so when people ask me for my business card nowadays, I've been giving that to them, and they go, that's a bit big. But anyway, when I tell them it's a brochure, they go, it's a bit small. So it's if you like one of those. Carry on. Got your pieces of paper? Right, so I'm up to number 10. Check out the problem and the solution, I call this one. So now we've written down the final problem and the current solution on the same piece of paper. And what we could do is we could expand to provide the fullest, longest problem definition and the most extensive response with supporting material, probably with appendices and subsections and things like that. Or we could write it down in the most succinct problem with the shortest solution explanation. Because that sometimes happens, doesn't it? You give them the report and they say, oh, it's a bit much. Can you give us an executive summary? And then they say, can you put it at the front? And then they say, could you just send us the executive summary and don't send us the rest? Because we're going to give it to somebody really important. And they've got, I never quite understand, they've got a really low attention span. I never quite understand why people with low attention spans get to run organizations at the very top. It sort of doesn't make sense to me. I thought they'd be quite good. Anyway, so they do that. So what do? You do all this work. So, sometimes we just do the second one, right? In fact, we do that sometimes. We send the executive summary, or we send the mind map or the notes of the meeting or something like that. And sometimes they say, but where's all the backup information? And we've got a trick with that. We have a file and it's got the job number, backup information, it says. And we show them the file, and they go, oh, that's okay then. Yeah, you must have done lots of work. Yeah? Would you believe that you can do that? Would you believe you can get away with that? Because if I spend all my time writing this report and checking the typos and the spelling and everything like that and the section headings, and I'm actually not being creative. I actually had to stop being creative 10 days ago in order to write this report, instead of the other way around, using 9 days of that time, or 9 hours, or 9 minutes, whatever it is. So could we, in each one of yours, do a really fat report, looking at all the issues, explaining everything, with a health and safety report from the health and safety advisor and all that? Or could we get on with it and just do it? So on your list, yeah, I might just do that, maybe. That's for you to decide. We also do this one. Do they actually want a recommendation rather than a solution? Should we be offering a choice, maybe of 3 or 4 items? Maybe we include some sensible and silly in it. Maybe it looks like it's giving power to them and they're involved in the process. We may have had 8 or 9 solutions, you will in your groups. But instead of going, do this one, we say you could do this, you could do that, you could do the other. You might say, and if you want a quick decision, then do this, but if you can wait 3 or 4 weeks, you might do that. Yep. So is that an option in all of this problem solving, not to solve the problem, but to make some recommendations? Yes, no, maybe. Delegate. Don't take the sticky stick. Sorry, the sticky stick is sort of, it's like a stick, and you go up to somebody, and you go like this, sort of thing. So I'll do it to you. See? And he takes it, and then he goes, ew, what's on this stick? Ew, it's stuck, and he's stuck. See, and he can't get rid of it. So the thing is not to take it. So when I gave you, you're right. So what is it? Is somebody taking photographs of us on a tall building over there, and we just, oh, the sun is coming in. Right. So in our little groups, was one of your reactions to say, I know somebody better at this I know somebody who's an expert in traffic on market days, right? You know, they're in the transport department. We shouldn't be looking at this. We're very talented, but we're quite busy and we've got other obligations, so we should give it to somebody else. And sometimes, if you're really good at this, you give it to them with the W's, okay? So you say, what is the problem, who's involved, when is it required, how much money is involved, and why is it needed? Why is it a problem? Do you do that, the W's? So we don't just go, well, here's the problem. We say, look, this is how far we've got with the problem. These are the options we were thinking of, but it's up to you. These are the phone calls we've made. These are the ones that we haven't made. We actually hand it over. We delegate. Difference between delegation and allocation is very important. If you delegate something, you're interested in what they do with it, and you want them to know that they did it. You want to report. If you allocate it, you just walk away. Give them the problem and go. So if you're ever, dumped on with a problem, if anybody dumps a problem on, you can always say, are you delegating this to me or are you allocating it? Because if they say allocating, you say, right, I'll do it my way. If they say they're delegating it, then you say, okay, you've got to help me and I'll come back to you and tell you what the answer is and we'll learn together. Identify the creative ones. Now, some of you know each other. You've looked up and down the rows that you're with. You're thinking, yeah, they'll come up with some ideas. They won't. Now, you do this at work all the time, don't you? Especially if you have a problem. It's very interesting if you're a young person in what you might call an older group. Sorry, is this not working, this thing? Oh, it's shining. Oh. All right, now. Delegate it. Is that better? Is that better? So yeah, creative ones. So sometimes you're a young person in a meeting, okay, the older people are doing all the, you don't quite know when to, and then you just put in a good idea. And they sometimes look at you and go, sorry, young person, what are you doing in the room? Didn't even know you were here. Oh, but quite a good idea. And do you know with some people, when you sort of, I was going to say, threaten them or aggressive, so you say, come on, it's a problem, we need answers. They go, right, in that case, and they wake up. And sometimes they go all defensive. And their sort of mind jams and they just stop. You know, people like that? And it can be the same people. In the morning, they're quite creative, and in the afternoon, they jam. Now, as a project manager, I want to know who those people are. I want to know the people who, when I put a problem on the table in a meeting, some of them don't speak at all. But afterwards, I can speak to them and they'll give me ideas. Yeah? Either because they're shy, or they're young, or they're not confident, or something like that. So I know those people. In my teams, I know those people. And if I'm a team member, I want the boss to know I'm one of those people. So they might put a problem on the table, and I might go, oh, later. And I go, okay. Which means something like, speak to me, I've got an idea, I want to talk to you about this later. Yep. Who are they? Ask them, follow them, learn from them. So, one of your challenges in the next 5 days is while you're sitting there in a meeting or on some sort of Skype conference or something like that, just to think, which ones are the creative ones here? Which ones actually solve problems? And I'm back to my project manager at the beginning. How much am I paying for administration? How much am I paying for problem solving? Find thinking time. We all have this. If, I generally don't drive very much, but I had a job where I had to drive about 300 kilometers there and back. And go in, I would play the radio and think about things and listen to weather reports and play CDs. And on the way back, I'd be fed up with all that. I'd heard all the news. And I'd stop. And after about an hour, just driving in silence, an idea would come to me. I'd go, wow, what we should have done, what I should have said. Yeah? You ever got that? Yeah? On an aeroplane, when you're fast asleep. And I mean, quite a number of women are good at this, especially when they're making love. You know, because they can do 2 or 3 things at the same time, and the men can't even make love, you know. So, I mean, you know, so you know, it's a diversity issue. But by all means. But a friend of mine, he does the driving. He does the driving one, and sometimes he's at home and he goes and sits in his car in the garage and sort of pretends he's driving, hoping that the idea will come to him. I've told him not to switch the engine on because, that could be fatal, but yeah. And sometimes it works, he says. So what's your thinking points? Can you replicate them? I mean, do you think better under pressure? Or in fact, is it worse now? Do you think when there's no pressure? But work it out for you and for your team. So you can see team members who come up with ideas and you say, well, that's brilliant. Could you develop that? And they go, no, that's it. And you go, could you develop that? Yeah, I'll be back with 3 or 4 tomorrow morning. Yeah, that sort of thing. I'd like to tell you, I've got enough time. And that is you say, I'm thinking. And I'll tell you the story. I was working on a project. This is quite a long time ago, so it's pre-mobile phones in a way. And I had an office for 2 people, but there was only me in it. Right? So I used the other desk as a table, and I did work on the table, and my phone would ring, and I'd have to get up and walk across and pick his phone up, say hello. Sometimes I was outside. We had like a coffee machine, and I'd be there talking to people, and they'd say, that's your phone, and I'd walk across and pick the phone up. You see? And it was this boss, this client of ours, who would probably ring at least 2 or 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week. And every time he'd say to me, hello, Tom, what are you doing? And every time I used to tell him. And I used to say, well, we're just making a cup of tea. Or we're just talking about the football last night, see. And I could tell he wasn't too impressed with this, see. And I thought, because I'm an honest guy, so I was telling him. So I thought, I've got to get a better answer than this. So he rang up one day. He didn't always say it, but he nearly always said it. So he said, Tom, what are you doing? And I said, I'm thinking. And his voice changed. He said, you are? Really? What are you thinking about, you see? And I said, well, I'm thinking about the monthly meeting, you see. And he said, yeah, I'm thinking about that. He said, I was ringing you up because it's on Thursday, isn't it? And I said, no, I wasn't thinking about this one, monthly meeting. I was thinking about the next one. And he went, you're not? Really? What, you're thinking that far ahead? And I went, yeah, well, somebody's got to. And so this changed, see. So every time he rang up, he used to ring up and say, what are you doing? Are you thinking? And I would usually say, yeah, I am actually. And he'd say, well, what are you thinking about? See, I remember I said, well, one time I said, well, I was thinking about the architect, and I'm a bit worried about him. I think we're putting him under quite a lot of pressure, actually. And he said, yeah, that's true, yeah. He's getting a bit tetchy in those meetings, isn't he? I said, yeah, well, could we keep changing our mind and messing him about? Yeah, he said, so what do you think we should do? See? And I said, well, that's what I said, I'm thinking about it, you see. And he said, yeah, but when will you know the answer? And I said, look, it doesn't work like that. I'm thinking. I can't put a time limit on this or anything. And he said, well, I appreciate that. I mean, thanks a lot. Yeah, okay, well, when you got some ideas, let me know. And I go, yeah, sure. I was thinking. And what happened was, I started to think. Right? I stopped it being a joke, and I started to think about these things. And I started to find my thinking time and my thinking place where I could go and think about not the next meeting, but the one after that. And the one after that. I started thinking about the architect. And then not just the architect, sorry, these are construction jobs, but the engineers. And so I started thinking about the people. Not just getting them to do things, but thinking about them. Thinking about how to handle them. I started to think. I'm getting a new coat made. It's called the Thinking Project Manager. Or have you tried thinking? Because we don't. So if you could find your thinking time and then think. Do any of you think with a finger? Or members of your team? Do they go, oh, you ask them a question, they go, oh, or they go, or, sorry, can you try this? Because this is all right, you ready? So pick a finger, it's only one finger, okay? You'll do 2 in a minute, that's the advanced course, okay? And you just go, slightly purse the lips. Now, it looks like you're thinking, doesn't it? Right? Now, anybody in my team who does that, I look at them and I go, are they doing that to their lips or are they thinking? Because quite often they're just doing that. And then the other one, they go, oh, yeah, I can't remember his name. And they, yeah, do you try that one? Try that one. Just hitting your forehead like that. 2 fingers, advanced course. Like this on the side of your head, on the side of the temples. Just try it. You can try it with 3 fingers. That's really advanced, right? 3 fingers with the little finger out. Okay? Going, yeah. Now, the problem with telling you all that is whenever you see anybody doing that in the next few months, you're going to be going, are they just doing that or are they thinking? Because a lot of time, they're not thinking. It's like acting. They're acting like they're thinking. So you look at your teams. Well, certainly when they've got fingers, I'm watching. But sometimes they're going, yeah, and they're looking out the window or something. Thinking. Keep a personal record. This is an Elvis Presley record of mine. No, it's not that sort of record. It's your history. It's your CV. It's your profile. Right? Do you keep it? Do you know all the projects you've worked on? If you apply for qualifications in project management, you're going to be asked for your profile, which isn't the same as your CV, because I don't want to know about the jobs. I want to know what you did on the jobs, what you learnt. And I don't mean it's all heroic, because it could be quite bad, but you learn more from problems than you do from success. So, what's your record? Can you now go back and just think about it? Now, you can do it with thinking. So, I gave you the problem with the electricity, and you went, I've never had this problem before, but a mate of mine had a problem with water being cut off. And what they did was, and wow, your history, your record pays off. Yep. So, do you do this, right? Look to your record and the contacts, not for the answer, but for inspiration. So quite often I've never come across this problem before, but I know somebody who has, or I could imagine somebody who has. Even if I know somebody, I don't have to contact them to put myself in their place to think how they solved the problem. Yep. So this is my Elvis Presley record, and I can think to myself, what would Elvis Presley do at this point when the electricity is going to be cut off? It's quite an interesting idea, because Elvis Presley would say, or something like that, and get somebody to sort it out, wouldn't he? And sometimes I think, that's what I should do. My true favourite is Bobby Moore, who was the captain of the England football team that won the 1966 World Cup, the only time England's ever won anything in football. Right? And I imagine, I sort of know of him, never met him or anything, but I have this image. He was a very smooth, cool customer, who didn't get fazed by anything. So I often think, I go into a meeting room and it's like, I've never been in this room before, I'm one of the first in. Where do you sit? Do you sit at that end, in the middle? That sort of choice. I often think, what would Bobby Moore do? What would Elvis Presley do here? And the stupid thing is, they never go into meeting rooms like that, but I've just taken myself out of myself to look at the problem from a different point of view. Find a mentor, a guru, an advisor. Somebody you know, might be your boss, might not be your boss, might be the last person you ask for help and advice. Might be somebody you went to school with, somebody you went to college with, so a teacher, a previous boss, a previous person you work with. Might be your father or your mother or an uncle or an auntie. Don't tell me, just write down a couple of initials against that item. And keep in touch with them. Involve them in problems, challenges, and difficulties by telling them what the process is you went through. Don't expect them to give you answers. And quite often they say, that's very good, yes, I'd have done the same. And they don't actually, but it's good to be able to talk to somebody, because it makes you straighten out the arguments in your own head. Don't waste their time talking about nothing. You know that some of these people you might not have spoken to for 2 or 3 years. You can ring them up, you can meet them, you can see them in a pub, and you can start the conversation. You don't need a whole load of preamble. And if you don't like any of that, then just be a mentor. And you'll be surprised how many people are mentors and don't realize it. That they are people who come. You were talking this morning. Sorry, get off there. Yeah. You were talking this morning saying, go into a company where people were sent to him to find out how you did things. And you might say it's a trainer, but actually it becomes a mentor. Those people stay with you. They remember the course. They come back to you years later saying, I got down to item 15, Tom, and do you remember? And people do that to me. do it to you. Establish the route. This is a tom-tom or something. It's sort of turn left, turn right. It's a route. So in each one of your situations, we could say, what is the route to the answer? Where do you want? Go there, go there. There might be Y junctions, there might be choices, but could we define the route? And then could we set off on the route to find the solution? Not just imagine the solution was there and we just could jump to it. Because that jumping, you might jump to the wrong place. You're at the wrong place and you're stuffed at this point. You don't know where to go. So where's the route? So could we write a route? And we sometimes call that a voyage of discovery. This is a bit like Columbus going across the Atlantic, thinking, I think I know where I'm going, but I'm not sure. A lot of this happens in software development, I know that. But how can we do it in a tangible way? So could we write down the route of saying, with sort of, let's try this and then try that. If we get to this point, check with them, report to them, find another choice, get the standby generator. Do you have a creative culture on projects? And I say in projects, but I might mean in an office or in an organization. If you don't, you've probably got a problem with everything I've said today. But is it possible to recognize creativity? Is it possible to nurture it? In other words, to encourage it and train it? Is it possible to give time and space? So we're not sort of confronting people, and people who are not good at confrontation, are we giving them time and space to do things? Are we recognizing it and celebrating it? On one of our jobs, we would have biscuits with our coffee and tea in the morning, but if the team had been particularly creative, then they got chocolate biscuits. And it was known as a chocolate biscuit day. And the person who, if one person had done it, then they got a big penguin type chocolate biscuit, sorry, in silver paper. They got a chocolate in silver paper. And it was, in fact, quite an important part of the culture. Right? We've known other places where if you're truly creative, you get a bonus. You get money, you get a prize, best idea of the month, things like that, 50 euros, Weekend for 2 in Paris. No, that didn't. But is there any culture? Or is it just expected? And the boss is quite dismissive of it. So they say, got any ideas? And you go, well, I've given you 2 already. And you go, yeah, you got any more? And so I had a boss who used to do this. And I used to say, well, what did you think of the 2 I'd given you? And he would say, yeah, well, I didn't like them. And I'd say, well, can you tell me what they were? Because I won't use them on you again. And he couldn't remember what I'd said. It was just, soaking it up. So anyway, so in all of your groups and teams there, is there any creativity culture? That takes me to number 18 on the list. Have you got any other suggestions? Sorry, it's Estonia. Have you got any other suggestions? You could Google, that's the word. You could Google this, couldn't you? So is it Google? Yeah, it's something like that, isn't it? You could, apparently there's this computerized system, and you take a word like chairs and wheels falling off, and you put that in, and it gives you all this information back. Or electricity cut off options. So you could go to Google and the internet, couldn't you? That's number 19. Any other suggestions? You could read a book about it, absolutely. You could learn, you could go on a course, because this is going to come up again and again. So, our environmental group down here next to the school, if we're going to be into this, then we better check out about environment. We better get one of Tom Taylor's books. He's written one on sustainability. If we're going to be, in this traffic situation, maybe we better do some research. Commission some research. Yeah? We had did it with an international group, and there was 2 people from Nepal there, north of India. They are even quieter than the Estonians. I mean, it's staggeringly how quiet they are, right? And they've been to about 3 or 4. They had never spoken in a group like this, right? Outside afterwards, they'll chat away, but they just were. And I asked at this point, and he put his hand up, and the whole room looked. Wow, the guy from Nepal is going to speak. And we said, what is it? And he said, yoga. yoga? Yoga? And that was it. Sorry, could you explain? He said, yeah, you meditate. You go away with the problem, you meditate. You don't find the answer in the meditation, you come back a different person, ready to deal with the issue. Oh, I'll write that one down, yoga, meditation, I like that, yeah. So, off you go. So if you've been doing this, and you've got yes, no, and maybes down there, then that's your script for the next 5 years. So when you see problems, don't waste your time trying to deal with the problem until you know what the problem is. Don't waste your team's time. Protect your team by using some, not all, of these topics at the right time. So, here's some dictionary definitions. When I used the word creativity, I was probably throwing all this in. Inventiveness, imagination, innovation, originality, individuality, artistry, expressiveness, inspiration, vision, creative power, creative talent, ingenuity. I particularly like ingenuity. People say to us as project managers, do you do innovation? And we said, not unless we have to. But we do ingenuity every day. We are ingenious. We are trying to solve problems with ingenuity. Enterprise, cleverness, smartness, which is very close to smart-arseness. Quick-wittedness, wit. An English dictionary definition. Cross out wit. It doesn't work in the American definition. Thinking is very simple. All it says is reasoning, ideas, theory, thoughts, line of thought. So, there you are. There's a range of techniques. Most of them avoid being creative or provide space or delay having to think or to think sparingly. But thinking might not be the answer to being creative in the management of projects and teams. It might be more about wisdom. Well, that's a different approach altogether, and we haven't got time to talk about that. Any questions? Any more questions? Okay, so here we go. Is the light gone? So I'm going to take, we've got 10 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each one of you to come up with the answers. So, organic recycling team, can you hold your piece of paper up? Who's got it? Okay, so we'll ask you, okay, some of your ideas, the brainstorming you've been doing, individually or collectively. We'll let them come up with half a dozen answers and then you can join in, okay? Because you haven't been thinking about this at all, have you? It's difficult not to. Right, what do you think then? Organic recycling, what could we do? You can use some of my 18 techniques if you want, or you can just come up with an idea. Okay, we'll move on to... Oh, sorry, excellent. Sorry, where are you from? Where are you from? Excellent. See, it can be done. You look slightly Norwegian, but okay, it's fine. Okay. So, yes, sorry.
Find out who wrote the problem.
Who wrote the... Right, so that was one of the ones we went. Yeah, so I think that would be good. Who is asking? Yep. And like I said, you know, if it's the head teacher, if it's the mayor, if it's the parents, it's all different, isn't it? That makes a difference to how we proceed. What else were you thinking of doing?
Find another place.
And, right, so look at alternative locations. Yeah.
Find out when.
Back to my 15-year type of... Yeah, so when is likely to happen? Now, what can be happening is, it can be somebody is just producing a report on this and the feasibility of it. Could be somebody's going to start building it next week. And that makes quite a difference to the problem, doesn't it? When is likely happening? Any more? Oh, sorry. Right, we could write down the problem. That would be interesting in this case, wouldn't it? Yeah. So write the problem down. Now, I think that's a really good one in your case. With the wheels falling off the chairs, it's not, it's pretty obvious. You write, the wheels are falling off the chairs. There's only so many ways you can write that. But what you're writing down actually would be fine. You could imagine a one-page brief. You can imagine quite a big explanation of what the issues are.
You also ignore the problem.
Yeah?
Because the parents are concerned. They haven't been raising banners with anything.
You could ignore it. Well, that's a good one, isn't it? And see whether they come back. This is a good take. When we would be asked, what is our change assessment procedures? Do you have that? Change management, change control within a project? What are your change? So we would say, no, we don't have any change control. We just have change resistance. And they say, how does that work? And I said, it starts with the word no. And then they ask again, you say no. And sometimes at that point they say, oh, okay, fair enough. And they go away. And then sometimes they come back. And the third time they ask. Sometimes they're asking a slightly better question. But actually, sorry. So ignore it, okay? And then if they're serious, they will come back. So that, it done the right way. I mean, you can't, it might work. So ignore, yeah. So it's the holiday option. Well, the other one is to tell them you're going on holiday and not go. Or tell them you're going on holiday in a fortnight and you're really busy in the next fortnight, so it'll be a month before you can get round to it. So there's a guy at the back wanted to interrupt your...
Yeah, I was just check problems and solutions. Maybe if it's open area, just build it.
Sorry?
Maybe it's not an issue.
Just build it.
If the recycle plant is a building, maybe it's not a big issue.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so some analysis. So analysis. So analysis of open or enclosed options, which means you start having to do research into these other 11 things and where else is it happening and that sort of stuff. Yep. Okay, so absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll facilitate a roundtable discussion. So because we're good at facilitating, aren't we, as managers? But we're not very good on environmental or dealing. So we could roundtable. Now we came up with 1, 2, 3, 6. If we keep going, a smaller group, if I push you, I know you're Estonian, but I'll push you, okay, we'll come up with 12 easily. And then we just say, so what should we do? Because it's just you see, it just won't stop now. You see that's the problem with these Estonians. You know, there's resistance, and then you open the switch, and just it's flooding out. Right. So analysis. I like the sort of open, enclosed type thing because I would like to build a row of trees, right? Plant a row of trees on the boundaries right now. That'll improve the environmental thing. Also, we could build a really high wall. Silly idea. Well, hang on a minute. No. Or we could treat it as an educational facility. So schools in the whole countryside have to come to this thing to see how recycling should be done. Wheels falling off chairs. You ready, boys and girls? Has this ever happened? Can you imagine it? Yeah? What are you going to do? Stand up, yeah. Stand up, yeah. What the hell are they doing sitting down anyway? Standing up, IT, yeah. They shouldn't be sitting down anyway. They should be out there solving problems and making this company even more efficient. Absolutely. Stand up, yep. Like that one? Get rid of the chairs. Yeah. I like the parcel tape. Just go and tape up all the way, whether they're falling off or not, right? Put signs on them. Do not lift this chair. Because they've got wheels on. What the hell are they doing lifting them up for anyway? Yes, sorry, is that 5 minutes or you're next? Oh, right, okay, he's doing that. I thought he had a good answer for a minute. Sit on floor, yeah. Sit on floor. Yeah, I like the idea of steal from accounts. Because they don't move any. They don't even need wheels, do they? Because they never move. Yeah. Could ring up the managing director. Or we could say that's the last person to ring up. What you'd ring up is the head of production, because obviously it's a production problem. No, you don't ring up them. You ring up the head of sales and tell them that we won't buy any more of their furniture. Yep.
Move the move to like boss room and
Sorry?
to fix it.
Sorry?
Move all the chairs to the boss's room and.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So demonstrate the problem. Yeah. Actually, I had this problem when we went round there 3 or 4 of us, right, we're going to go around there and sort it out. Got the IT manager to be there and the person who looks after chairs. I said, we want to come and talk to you about chairs. So we all went round and met and he said, right, you want to talk about the new chairs? Well, we would like 250 with these adjustments. I said, no, we're talking about the old new chairs with the wheels falling off. And he said, we sold that weeks ago. And we'd spent an hour talking about these things. So we didn't do it. Sorry, that 1 minute to go. Next group. Yep, there they are. Here's the electricity to the offices. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we ring them up and we say, why are you cutting our electricity off on Thursday and Friday rather than Saturday and Sunday? And they say, because we have to pay our people overtime and it costs us 150 euros for the overtime. And we go, well, we could find that 150 euros to not cut off 200 people. Yep. Something like that. The who, the big who told us. Because what it turns out is that bloke who said he was from the electricity company is actually from one of our competitors. And they're playing this dirty tricks campaign. Sorry, you're laughing. It has been known to happen. Or versions of it. Any other ideas? Work at home. So yeah, all those ones are work at home, whole standby situation. What happens if this happens? Standby generation, generators, plug in, or even we've already got the facility, or we should put it in, because now we need more, what do you call it, business continuity. So where's the business continuity plan? You know about them, don't you? You're in IT. So do you want...
Use it as a test run to check if you need electricity after all.
We were going to do environmental, weren't we? I mean, never mind getting environmental electricity, let's have no electricity. Yep. And you get the idea. Okay? So I won't do this group, but you get the idea. Okay? You can do this, you can drive this. You do this sometimes in pubs. In UK, we do it especially in pubs. Trouble is we don't write it down and then we can't remember the following day. But, is there any more questions? 1 hour left. Thank you. Okay. So, if you want to go to my website, that's Tom Taylor there. Dashdot is where we publish the books. You can do that. Bureau 4 is a startup company 30 years ago in project management, which has now got 100 people. Well, it was startup in those days. So it's called 4 because there was 4 people sitting around a kitchen table talking about types of project management. I was one of them. I was the chairman for the first 15 years. And APM is our professional association, similar to the excellent one you have in this country. We're 40 years old with 20,000 members, 500 corporate members. We are strong in project management in the UK. You're strong here as well, just not as big yet. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
What's with that coat? On the stickers.
Yeah, what's with the coat? Why do you think I'm wearing this coat? Come on.
You don't want to get dirty.
Don't want to get...
Jump out of the box.
2 reasons. One is, you will remember this, because there was a bloke walking around in a white coat with a whole load of badges. What the hell was all that about? Okay, you remember that. And second one, for me, it puts me into a part. When I see myself in this coat, I'm not Tom Taylor, the project manager. I'm Tom Taylor, the guy who's going to present to you. And it makes a difference. It started off by pure accident. I did a spoof on something called GMPM. There's a book on it, Genetically Modified Project Management. Okay? And I did it as a talk for an international audience, and after about 10 minutes, they realized it was a joke, but for 10 minutes, they weren't sure. And I wore this coat, and I had like a delegate's badge on a lanyard, as we call it, you know. And people afterwards were saying, this guy came on. This guy came on. He was a doctor. He had a stethoscope and everything. And it was so So I went and did some more talks. I had a row of coloured pens like engineers have. You know, sort of different coloured geeks, engineers. And they said, yeah, he's an engineer. See? So I was just about to take all these badges off and do another one. But when you go for an interview, you dress up, don't you? You just sort of, even if you don't change your clothes. Sorry, you're a software, aren't you? You wear T-shirts the whole time. Huh? But, you know, you actually smarten yourself up, don't you? If you go for an interview or you're being interviewed or you go to a works or a site or something like that, you change. So this is what I do when I'm lecturing at the moment. Is that good enough? Right, so we finished. There's a 20-minute break until the next one, so there is refreshments this time, okay? If you want to come and look at the books and chat to me or pick up one of these things, that's fine. I'll be around until tomorrow afternoon. These books might be somewhere else. We're done. Thank you very much.